Somewhere on an island smaller than the state of Maryland, inside a building with air cleaner than a hospital operating room, workers in full-body white suits are doing something that will affect your life more than any election, any war, or any economic policy passed in any parliament on Earth. They are printing the future. Not metaphorically, literally printing, etching microscopic patterns onto wafers of silicon using light so precise, so impossibly fine, that the wavelength being used is shorter than the diameter of a strand of DNA. The machines doing this cost $150 million each. There are fewer than 100 of them in the world. Every single one was built by a single Dutch company that most people have never heard of. And the chips they produce? Chips so small that 3,000 of them could fit on the period at the end of this sentence, are the foundation upon which the entire modern world is built. Without them, your phone goes dark. The internet goes silent. Modern aircraft cannot navigate. Financial markets cannot function. Hospitals lose their diagnostic equipment. Military systems go offline. And the artificial intelligence revolution, the one that every government, every corporation, every military on Earth is racing to win, simply stops. One island, one company, one technology. The most dangerous single point of failure in the history of human civilization. And almost nobody outside a small circle of governments and intelligence agencies is talking about it. For a century, the world ran on oil. Oil built empires. Oil funded wars. Oil determined which countries were powerful and which countries were desperate. Every major geopolitical conflict of the 20th century, every alliance, every invasion, every proxy war fought in jungles and deserts had oil somewhere in its DNA. The country that controlled oil controlled the pace of the modern world. That era is ending. Not slowly, not gradually, with a speed that has caught governments, strategists, and economists completely off guard. Because the resource that is replacing oil does not come from the ground. It does not flow through pipelines or move on supertankers. It is manufactured, in clean rooms, by machines of almost incomprehensible precision, by a handful of companies in a handful of locations. And the strange part, the part that should unsettle you, is that the average person using this technology every single day has no idea any of this is happening. You have used the product of this factory today, almost certainly before you finished your morning coffee. You just didn't know who made it possible. The resource is the semiconductor chip, and the war for it has already begun. Most people think they understand what a chip is, a processor, a component inside a computer, something that makes electronics run faster. That understanding is not wrong, it is just catastrophically incomplete. The modern semiconductor chip is not a component, it is a civilization compressed into silicon. The most advanced chips being manufactured today, the ones inside NVIDIA's AI processors, inside Apple's latest iPhones, inside the supercomputers training the artificial intelligence systems that will reshape medicine, warfare, science, and economics, contain more than 50 billion transistors. 50 billion. On a piece of silicon smaller than a postage stamp. Each transistor switches on and off billions of times per second, performing calculations at speeds the human brain cannot conceptualize. Think about what that actually means. The phone in your pocket contains more processing power than the computers NASA used to land humans on the moon. More power than the combined computing resources of every government on Earth in 1980. Held in your hand. Running your calendar and your social media and your camera simultaneously without you giving it a second thought. You have never once thought about where it came from. But somewhere, people in suits are thinking about nothing else. And here is what almost nobody outside the industry fully understands. The complexity of manufacturing these chips is so extreme, so demanding, so technically challenging, that only 3 companies on Earth can do it at the cutting edge. Samsung in South Korea, Intel in the United States, and one company that by almost every measure is the most strategically important private enterprise on the planet. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. TSMC was founded in 1987 by a 55-year-old engineer named Morris Chang, a man who had spent decades at Texas Instruments watching the chip industry grow and saw something nobody else had noticed. Every company wanted to design chips. Nobody wanted the unglamorous, expensive, technically brutal work of manufacturing them. Morris Chang saw the gap. He convinced the Taiwanese government to provide startup funding for an unusual idea. A company that would never design a single chip of its own. It would only manufacture. A factory for hire. The best factory in the world. At the time, nobody thought this quiet man with a simple idea would reshape the global balance of power. They were wrong. Over the following decades, TSMC executed with a discipline and technical precision that left every competitor behind. While American chip companies focused on design and outsourced manufacturing, while European companies failed to keep pace with investment cycles, and while Chinese companies poured money into the problem but kept hitting walls, TSMC just kept getting better. Every few years, TSMC pushed the limits further. Chips became smaller, faster, and so technically demanding to produce that replicating the process became effectively impossible without decades of accumulated knowledge. Knowledge that lived only inside one company, on one island. Today, TSMC manufactures approximately 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Apple designs the processors inside every iPhone. TSMC builds them. NVIDIA designs the chips powering the AI revolution. TSMC builds them. AMD, Qualcomm, MediaTek, Broadcom. Virtually every major chip designer on Earth relies on TSMC to turn their designs into physical reality. There is no backup plan. There is no alternative. If TSMC stopped operating tomorrow, not because of war, not because of politics, but because of a factory accident, a natural disaster, or a single catastrophic technical failure, the global technology industry would begin running out of advanced chips within weeks. Within months, the shortage would cascade through every industry that depends on technology, which is every industry. One company, one island, the entire digital world balanced on a single point. And here's the part that makes intelligence agencies lose sleep. Most people, most educated, informed, technologically literate people, have never heard of TSMC. They know Apple, they know NVIDIA, they know Samsung. They do not know the name of the company without which none of those companies could function. That invisibility is not an accident. It is the most dangerous kind of power. And then you look at where that island sits. Taiwan lies approximately 110 miles off the coast of mainland China. The Chinese government has considered Taiwan part of China since 1949, when nationalist forces retreated there after losing the Chinese Civil War. For 75 years, the relationship has been tense, occasionally explosive, and permanently unresolved. China has never renounced the use of force to reunify Taiwan. America has never formally committed to defending Taiwan militarily, while simultaneously making clear, through arms sales and diplomatic signals, that it would not accept a forcible takeover. For decades, this arrangement, deliberately ambiguous on all sides, maintained an uneasy stability. But then something changed. The chip. Before TSMC became what it is today, Taiwan was geopolitically important, but not uniquely irreplaceable. After TSMC became the manufacturer of 90% of the world's advanced chips, Taiwan became something the world had never seen before. A country whose economic function was so critical to global civilization that its fate had become inseparable from the fate of the entire modern world. Military strategists call this a crown jewel scenario. The crown jewel is so valuable that everyone wants it, so fragile that any conflict risks destroying it, so irreplaceable that its loss would be catastrophic for every side. China wants Taiwan, and has for 75 years. But China also desperately needs TSMC. China's entire technology ambition, its AI programs, its military modernization, and its economic development plan depends on access to advanced chips. And right now, despite spending hundreds of billions of dollars trying to build a domestic semiconductor industry, China cannot manufacture them at the level that matters. This creates a trap unlike anything in modern geopolitical history. If China invades Taiwan and the factories are destroyed, China loses the very thing it wanted. If China invades and the factories survive under Chinese control,
Analysts said the move demonstrated China's confidence in pressing its military advantage. The drills rehearsing a blockade come days after the U.S. announced a record $11.1 billion arms package to Taiwan.
every Western country immediately faces a civilizational-level technology crisis. Both outcomes are catastrophic, for someone. The deeper you look, the more you realize this is not a problem with a clean solution. It is a problem with only bad options. In October 2022, the Biden administration made a decision that sent shockwaves through the global technology industry. It announced comprehensive export controls, restricting the sale of advanced chips and chip-making equipment to China. Not just American chips, any chip made anywhere in the world using American technology, American software, or American equipment, which, because of how interconnected the global semiconductor supply chain is, means almost every advanced chip on Earth. The move was described publicly as a national security measure. It was also something else. It was the opening move in a technological Cold War. For the first time in history, the United States had weaponized the semiconductor supply chain, using America's central position in chip technology as a strategic tool to limit the technological development of its primary rival. China called it economic aggression. The American government called it national security. Both descriptions were accurate. What neither government said publicly, but what every intelligence analyst understood, was the deeper implication of what had just happened. The chip had officially become the new oil, and America had just announced that it intended to control the global chip supply the same way it had once controlled global energy markets, through influence, through alliances, and through the quiet threat of cutting off access. But there was a problem, a serious one. America designs the chips, America controls the software, America dominates intellectual property, but America doesn't manufacture the most advanced ones. TSMC does. Which means America's entire chip strategy depends on a company located on an island that China has never stopped claiming. That is not a strategy. That is a dependency dressed up as leverage, and China knows it. Let's talk about what the artificial intelligence race means for all of this. Because everything discussed so far, the geopolitics, the supply chain vulnerabilities, and the US-China competition, becomes dramatically more urgent when you add AI. In November 2022, the same year America imposed chip export controls, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. What followed was the fastest adoption of any technology in human history. 100 million users in 60 days. Every major technology company, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple, redirected billions of dollars toward artificial intelligence development almost overnight. And every single AI system, every large language model, every image recognition tool, every autonomous system, every military AI application runs on chips. Specifically on the kind of chips that only NVIDIA designs, and only TSMC can manufacture at scale. NVIDIA's market capitalization went from approximately $300 billion in early 2023 to over $3 trillion by mid-2024. More valuable than every oil company on Earth combined. The market was not rewarding NVIDIA for what it had already done. It was pricing in the belief that whoever controls AI chip supply chains controls the future of intelligence itself. And consider what that actually means for an ordinary person. The AI system that helps you write an email, that generates your images, that answers your questions, that system runs on chips made in a building on an island at the center of the world's most dangerous geopolitical standoff. Every time you type a prompt into an AI tool, your request travels through data centers filled with chips that took 30 years of Taiwanese industrial expertise to manufacture. You are already living inside this story. You just haven't been told. And the military dimension is where the stakes become almost incomprehensible. Artificial intelligence is not just a consumer product. It is the foundation of next-generation military power. Autonomous weapons that make targeting decisions faster than any human. battlefield intelligence systems that process information from thousands of sources simultaneously, cyber warfare tools that can penetrate any network, logistics systems that coordinate military operations at a scale and speed no human commander can match. The country that leads in AI will have military advantages so significant that they may make conventional military competition effectively obsolete. This is not science fiction. This is the explicit assessment of the United States Department of Defense, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, and every serious defense analyst on Earth. And it all runs on chips. Chips that one company makes, on one island. America is trying to change this. The CHIPS and Science Act allocated $52 billion to rebuild American semiconductor manufacturing. TSMC is constructing new facilities in Arizona. Samsung is building in Texas. Intel is expanding in Ohio. These are real investments, real progress, real political will. But here is what the press releases do not say. The Arizona TSMC facility will manufacture chips at advanced nodes, impressive by any normal standard. TSMC's most advanced facility in Taiwan is already a full generation ahead. The gap is not closing fast enough, and closing it requires more than money. Building a semiconductor facility takes 5 to 10 years from groundbreaking to full production. Training the workforce takes longer, and developing the accumulated process knowledge, the thousands of small optimizations, the solutions to manufacturing problems that only reveal themselves over years of production, and the institutional memory of how to push silicon to its physical limits cannot be transferred by signing a contract. Knowledge lives in people, in decades of practice, in the specific culture of a factory that has been doing this longer and better than anyone else on Earth. China understands this, and China's response to American chip restrictions has not been acceptance, it has been acceleration. Huawei, the Chinese technology company that America tried to cripple with export controls, shocked the entire intelligence community in 2023 when it launched a smartphone containing a 7-nanometer chip. A chip that, according to the restrictions in place, China should not have been able to manufacture. It had found a way. Not at scale, not consistently, but enough. The message was unmistakable. China will not be contained indefinitely, and the race, the real race, the one being run in clean rooms and government strategy sessions and university research labs, is accelerating toward a moment when the current equilibrium breaks. Either China achieves semiconductor independence, or the leverage America currently holds disappears. Or the Taiwan question becomes something more than a diplomatic tension, and the facility that manufactures the world's most critical technology finds itself at the center of a conflict that nobody can afford and nobody knows how to stop. Either outcome reshapes everything. Both outcomes are already being planned for. We began with an island, a clean room, workers in white suits, machines printing something invisible at a scale the human eye cannot see. We end in the same place, because nothing has been resolved. The factory is still there, the machines are still running, the chips are still being etched, tested, packaged, and shipped to Apple, to NVIDIA, to the defense contractors, to the AI companies, to the hospitals and the banks and the militaries and the laboratories that run the modern world. And somewhere tonight, a person you have never heard of is using a phone they never thought about to run an AI system they take for granted, built on chips they don't know exist, manufactured in a building on an island at the center of the most consequential geopolitical standoff of the 21st century. That person is probably you. The 20th century was defined by the wars fought over oil. Millions died, empires rose and fell. Entire regions were reshaped, violently, permanently, by the logic of energy control. The 21st century will be defined by something you cannot see. Something smaller than a grain of sand. Something being printed, right now, by workers who go home to their families each night not fully knowing that what they do in that clean room may determine whether the next decade is peaceful or catastrophic. The biggest battles in history were never fought only where people were looking. They were fought over the things people didn't yet know they couldn't live without. Now you know. The only question left is whether the world finds a way to share the future, or whether someone, somewhere, decides it's easier to take it.